South Summit for making this panel possible. And of course, thanks to the speakers. These are very brilliant people and very busy people, so I know it wasn't easy to make room in the agendas. So thanks. I have to say, I am personally very happy today because a few things. First of all is that today I don't have to speak about me or my company, at least not only. And second thing is that we are talking today about space, and moreover we are talking about the space in the South Summit. And I have a very funny story. Back in 2016, when my company was still a 6-month-old baby, my co-founders and I were finalists. We had funds, a lot of money from the European Space Agency. Hi, Carlos. It was you back then. And we were members of the Airbus BizLab Aerospace Startup Accelerator. And we had a bunch of products, services, and technology specifically designed for space and aeronautical sector. And you know where they put us here? In the travel and tourism category. because at the moment, in 2016, space and industry was not drawing so much attention. But today we're talking about space. And it was not the only thing that happened to us. There was another thing, is that the first ever non-aerospace clients that we made in our company, we made them here in 2016. Renewable energy companies, infrastructure companies, transportation companies. They are still our clients and they are still out there. But the change is that today we are talking here about space. Yeah, we've never been exclusively a space company. OBU, it's my company. We work in the nuclear fusion sector, defense sector, renewable, transportation, aeronautical, and space sector. But this year we are feeling the vibe. I mean, I'm feeling it every day. We have foreign clients for which we are developing numerical models for non-Newtonian technology to make microactuators for nanosatellites. We are working for another client that is making its own low Earth orbit constellation. We are working in design of the structures of its satellites. But we are also in the old space. We are involved with the European Space Agency for designing and building devices for the test, for the thermal and vacuum test for Earth monitoring for environmental reasons satellites. So we see the private part, we see the public part, and we are facing now, today, into the new space era. Things are cheaper, things are smaller, things are more affordable, and there are a lot of technical advancements and innovations that they are allowing not only the big government-funded entities or governmental state agencies. People, entrepreneurs, culture of innovation, small companies are welcome. And for that, for speaking about all of this today, we have Victor Montero. He's founder of B2Space. They have a Rockoon technology, rocket plus balloon, with a stratospheric balloon. They want to lift up a small satellite launcher for low Earth orbits. It's self-operated and taking off directly from the balloon. You'll tell us about that later. It sounds like a lot of money in it and a lot of money to be made. So I'll ask you later. There is also Miguel Ángel Carrera. I know him from competing against him for the ITER organization, Nuclear Fusion Reactor. And believe me, this is the guy that the nuclear fusion reactor and particle accelerators and large telescope builders, they call when no one else can do it. He's the CEO and founder of AVS, Added Value Solutions, and this is not a joke. Actually, if I remember well, there are 2 devices that he has designed and built in the rover Perseverance on Mars. Correct me if I am wrong, but it's the surface sample collector and some mechanism for the MEDA mechanism, the wind sensor and the environmental control.
Yep.
So this guy has a lot of payload from his company in Spain, in Mars, in the surface. And there is also Olivier. He comes from Polytechnic, best of the best, from Paris. And he has been in C-level positions in mobile operator companies, in mobile network operator companies. in telecom companies, digital media agencies, and it's quite few years that he is now a venture capital investor. And now he's a partner in Red River West, that they are funding European companies to compete and develop their businesses in the US market. So we were talking about new space. There is one thing very important about new space also, is that the sector is now filled up with private money. So talking about money, Olivier, first question is to you. How does the space look into your investment for portfolio? And how do you think it will look in the near future?
It's a valid question because we're a generalist fund, so we invest in European companies to help them expand to the US. And space tech used to be incompatible with VC investment. You know, it was too expensive and too long. We have to return money to investors within about 10 years, and projects used to be too long. Now, to do a launcher, it's about 6-7 years, costs less than 150 million, so it's compatible with VC money. So this ecosystem is changing a lot. It's also changing because it used to be completely public-driven. Now, if you look at the numbers, there was a study by the European Union 2 years ago that now the public portion of the Earth observation revenue is down to 52%. So it's still the majority that is coming from public money, but a big portion is also coming from the private sector. And the last bit is, why investing in Europe as well? And for us, this is driven by many things, but one of them is the geopolitical changes. And until about 2 years ago, there used to be, you know, the US bloc and Europe and Asia. In Europe, the countries were very fragmented. You had some countries like Netherlands, Nordics, and to some extent Spain, if I may, if I've been told, that were quite happy to depend on the US companies. You know, there was NASA, there was SpaceX. What was Europe about? And then something changed dramatically 2 years ago, in August 2021, with the evacuation of Kabul. So I don't know if you remember that phase, but all the countries were rushing to evacuate their people from Kabul. And some countries, like Germany, like France, they had their own satellite capacity. And they were not dependent on the US. But there are very few, there are other European countries, few ones, that didn't have any capacity. Mm-hmm. And at that time, they said, hey, American people, please help us. And you know what the US did? They didn't. Mm-hmm. And this single event, you know, evacuating thousands of people from Kabul, changed dramatically the dynamic within Europe. And if you've seen what's happened over the last few months, the budget for Europe space tech increased massively. And this combination with the fact that private companies now can innovate, there's a study from McKinsey that says that about 3/4 of the innovation R&D budget is coming from the public sector, but the part coming from the private sector has increased 20 times over the last few years. So now we have a common vision in Europe to create world leaders. And for us as investor, we also have business models now that are more compatible with our profile in terms of return. So we just led the investment in the exploration company, which is a 40 million Series A round, to build an orbital vehicle. So this is a hardware-driven business model. We also believe that the next phase for us in terms of portfolio will be what I call space for Earth, which is leveraging the space capacity to create value on Earth. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Sorry, that was a bit dense, but I wanted to explain what the way we see it as investor.
Sounds like a trip there. What's the company, the space exploration company?
Exploration company, it was created by a perfect combination of French and German talents. They create what is roughly similar as Dragon from SpaceX, which is a vehicle that is able to bring supply or people to space stations or carry out experiments in space.
Well, there is another person here that also understands a bit about space and about the US markets. It's Miguel Ángel Carrera. Mm-hmm. You've experienced and you've consolidated in the old space where money is public, things are big, things are expensive, but also in the new space, like building your own 3D printer for lunar habitat. I've seen it with my own eyes. And yeah, how does it look first, the balance between public and private initiative, and how do you think is going to be your growth vectors within the space sector in ABS?
Okay, thank you. Well, ABS is a company that was founded 17 years ago, so we are not so young. We are already around 200 people based in Spain, UK, and the US. So we started off developing what is called old space, or what is called traditional space, based on funding, public funding for for large exploration projects, such as asteroids or Mars or now the moon, wherever. Anything that has a very long return of investment, which should come from the public money, which is a long-term sort of bet. We are already there in Perseverance. It's true that this public money, the return of investment directly from the funding agency is not direct, but it's true that it puts you in a level that you can actually show your capacities and your capabilities in a very harsh environment as it is in Mars. Our experience, it was very, very hard to get into that Perseverance rover. And since then, we have managed to, you know that the Perseverance is taking samples from Mars right now. There's a further mission in 5 years' time to take these samples, and we already won the hand that is going to pick the samples. So that's sort of the level of the sort of jump that we made since one rover to the next. And that gave us access also to the US market. So, and in both manners, so we sort of raised the TRL of the company in order to make people believe, all the stakeholders, not private, public, etc., that we were capable of taking on large challenges, but also gave us the entrance to the US market, which we were focused in, and we managed to buy a company in 2019 over there. And this gave us a whole new sort of, I would say, a speed, for sure, and a whole new market over there. So, I mean, the US is a complex thing. Well, space is a complex thing right now. It's very difficult to put a name into all the things that is happening. But if you are focused and try to get rid of all the noise that is happening over there, I think there are huge opportunities. And given that the launching price has gone down, there are there are new sort of business models that weren't a business model before, but could be a business model now. So things are changing as we speak, and we are on there, yeah.
Come on, these people want blood here. So can you tell us some specific project? Are you tendering for Artemis missions? Are you tendering in the International Habitat from the European Space Agency? Something from China?
I mean, right now we are tendering for the landing gear for the ExoMars rover that is going to be the Rosalind Franklin, and we are bidding for the landing legs, and we will see how it goes. It's going to be hard, but hopefully we'll win.
We'll be monitoring.
Yeah.
Okay, and Victor, as I was saying, and it looks expensive to lift an automatically operated small rocket launcher to the stratosphere, and but looks so interesting, and looks that there is a business in it. So, and there is one thing I love, because it reminds me a lot of my company, is that you have learned how to make money before your product is finished. We did that. And we call it liquid business models, you know? and so can you tell us first the state of development of your technology, also the finance in it, if you're investing or you're getting funds from somewhere, and how does the near future looks to you?
Yeah, so, well, actually, one of the main objectives of our company was to facilitate and enable this kind of new space solution, no, and reduce the cost barriers for the space. And that's why actually our launcher tend to not be that expensive compared with traditional launchers. So that's why we're using a different technology, so lifting with the stratospheric balloon to 30 kilometers of altitude and develop a much smaller rocket. So we reduce more than 70% of the fuel needed in the rocket. So therefore we are using a smaller scale of rockets, therefore cost, etc. As well as giving to the customer an additional benefits on flexibility, on orbit selection, etc. That is a niche that probably the vertical launcher cannot reach, no, at the moment. And for this reason, so we are reducing as well our funding needs in that sense. So that means that we are still a launcher company. So we have closed more than 4 million between private and public funding. So actually, we born in the UK. But since 2021, so we came here in Spain. So the founder, we were Spanish, but we explore all the different ecosystems here in Spain, and we selected Castilla y León, so to build our development site. as they were all the ecosystem and that was there and their bet for this high altitude platform that is in place. So actually are now what you mentioned, the ISABIC that you started, no? So they are starting as well over there, and we found that quite interesting to have this kind of combination between the public support that we can get, but as well the private funding. And in the other side, what you mentioned, so we have been working 7 years already in this project. So the first step has been develop the high altitude capabilities, so how to operate this stratospheric balloon, develop the platform, and adapt everything to this kind of environment of operations. And before going for the Rockoon, that still have a couple of years of full development, we have commercializing, we are starting commercializing what we call the near space testing and hubs missions. So on that, we already have closed more than 3 million in sales. So it's something that is helping us to keep developing and as well reducing the funding needs that we have. So, and as you say, so it's keep developing and surviving for making this dream reality.
Sounds clever. And can you tell us how does your timeline for main milestones in the development, how does it look ahead of you?
Yeah, so well,
when are you testing, for example?
So at the moment, so we are now having like, or splitting like in 2 ways. So the commercialization of the current business line of near space testing, so testing equipment that will go to space in near space condition, no? And in the other side is the keep the development of the Rockoon. So for the development of the Rockoon, we expect this year, so at the end in the Q4, to perform a Rockoon launch. It's a prototype that is as well based on this strategic project that was funded with Castilla y León. And after that is to scale up for a commercial rocket, so for an orbital launch. And that hopefully will happen by 2025, so we'll have an operative launcher for LEO.
It's quite soon. So Olivier, about these business models, that they are new and risky, but they seem a huge opportunity. From the capital investor point of view, what are the main difficulties or blocking points you find when you are assessing? Because, I mean, we say many times new space, but there is the business world also in it. We need to make money on it. So how do you measure that? Or what are the main points, or how do you support your calculations in something that is such a new business model?
So for us, there are mostly 2 kind of business model that we look at. There's what's hardware-driven, typically what you do, what the exploration company does. And then more and more, we have what I call hardware-supported SaaS models. So, you know, you launch a couple of satellites, but after that, what you sell is subscription to data, to intelligence, to insights. For us as investor, we're trying to balance our portfolio. So because the exploration company was more of your kind of business model, it's likely that the next one will be more software driven. So we need to balance this. Now, when we look at this kind of model, we're actually quite fortunate in Europe because the European Space Agency, and I'm doing some free advertising for them now, they have a bunch of experts that they can leverage and give to the disposal of investors. So when we look at the exploration company, not only have we known the founder, Hélène, from 14 years, but we also leverage the expertise from the European Space Agency to assess the model. And obviously, we're trying to see where the risk lies. In practice, for an orbital vehicle, the technology is not that groundbreaking. Everybody says, oh, it's like rocket science. But actually, there's a good portion of rocket science that hasn't changed that much. If you look at an orbital vehicle, it looks about the same as the Apollo capsule about 30 years ago. The new innovation that we looked at and the one that we like with the exploration company is the propellant. As you may know, most of the launchers, they use hydrazine, which is extremely bad for everything, human environment and everything. And now there's a new trend, and new companies are using biomethane, which obviously has a much lighter footprint. It's a greener propellant. And for us, that's where the innovation lies, mostly for the exploration company. So we're trying to assess the risk and kind of understand the one we're taking so that it's in line with the expected return that we make.
And are you pushing your risk assuming limits when it comes to space, or you're assuming the same level of risk in every sector you are investing?
So for us, we're quite risk adverse compared to other funds. We rarely take technological bets. Like I wouldn't bet on quantum computing, for example. It's not the fund profile that we have. So for us, the risk needs to be relatively low. In the case of the exploration company, we judge the risk to be close to zero from the team, manageable for the technology, and quite good actually for the market. So in practice, this is likely to be a given profile, but it's not the riskiest profile, even if it looks like it because it's deep tech, it's space tech. We believe that the risk is actually very much controlled here.
Okay, okay. And I remember when we were, as you were also in the ESA BIC, I remember there was always we were trying to talk about the space technology that will be applied on Earth. Now it's the other way out also, you know, it's bi-directional. We are taking to space technologies that they work very well here. It happens to me. We've been learning and getting some know-how from the nuclear fusion sector, where there is a lot of heat and a lot of vacuum. Also in the space, happens the same thing. So we learn a lot, then we go with this credential and we grow in the space sector. And so Miguel Angel, for you, and I actually like a lot your company.
Thank you.
But you divide in projects, so you are reactive sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes someone has a need, you go there. And sometimes you do proactively put technology into the market. How does the future looks like this balance?
Okay, well, we have to...
And you have to be very quick because then
Yeah.
I want the public to ask some questions.
I will. We have to live. I mean, 17 years ago, there weren't so many funds, so many startups, so to say. So we had to bootstrap, and the way to bootstrap was to respond to needs. So we have lived on responding to needs. So we have done mechatronics, robotics, etc., to respond to specific needs for Earth observation, Moon, Mars, whatever. In the meantime, we have been able to develop our own product line, both in thrusters for the spacecraft, with water as a propellant. And also we are developing our own line of small sats that ranges between 50 and 250 kilos. And it's very interesting what you said regarding on where to put your satellite, okay? Because normally for satellite as ours, we are the second on the class, okay? So you are a right share. You are put wherever the prime wants to put you. So it's very important to have this sort of new opportunities for launchers. And then, well, we're launching our satellite next year in June, and hopefully we will be the ones to close the gap between CubeSats and larger sats. So we think we have a nice way to perform. And given that we still don't have any fund, we can be as patient as we want.
Thank you. Thank you. You see, people, these guys don't joke when it comes to space. And it's really a luck that we have them here. So there is time for a couple of questions, maybe, if you want someone in the public to take the chance.
Hi, thank you for everyone's contributions in the panel. My name is Daniel Perez. I'm the CEO and co-founder of iSpace. My question is for Olivier. You mentioned that you guys take no technological risk. That's almost an oxymoron in,
No, of course.
in space.
Lower.
Low technological risk. I mean, the exploration company itself, there's basically only 2 companies in the world doing that. There's basically no heritage in Europe for human or manned spaceflight. So you must be taking some technological risk. So, and furthermore, I believe the market there is still kind of unproven. So when you're looking at a startup, let's say, what are the things that really drive you to make an investment? And what can other investors that are out here, specifically in Spain, because we don't really have a space-focused or a lot of deep tech investors, what can they learn from your process in order to make better decisions or make the decision at all when it comes down to investing in a space company?
Okay. So first, I think what was very important is that until a few years ago, there was only like specialized funds and almost only at seed stage. Whereas in the US, if you look at the tier 1 funds, almost all of them have a space tech or 2 in their portfolio. And I think we need more of that in Europe. We need journalist funds like us, like EQT, who collate around in the exploration company to make this kind of bet. Because in practice, the specialized funds, they are very good at structuring the company and de-risking some of that technological risk that we might take. But we also need journalist funds who will help the founders on the business side of things. And you know, if I take the example of the exploration company, if you know Hélène, the founder, she told us at the beginning, I no longer need specialized funds. You know, I'll always be better than you at making any technological decision, and she's very right, of course. But she was like, I need help to understand how do I address the US market. I need help to think about the branding of my company. I need help to communicate on what I do. And I think that's us as journalist funds, that's what we can bring. Now, if I go to the example of the exploration company, for us, the key driver is exactly what you described. Today, there are 3 orbital vehicles in the world, one in Russia, one in China, and Dragon from SpaceX. Obviously, working with the Chinese and the Russian is a bit more complicated these days. So the whole Western world relies on SpaceX. And when on our side we talked to most of the players, they said, we need competition in that market. We need a team to build something that will be competing to Dragon SpaceX. So the bet we took was, yes, you're right, a bit on the technology, but it was lowered in a sense that Hélène, when she was at Airbus Defence and Space, she led part of the Orion program, part of Artemis, so she's got an amazing track record in terms of delivery. One of the plague of space tech is that there's so much delays all the time, and from our perspective, Hélène is one of the few people who can drive a team to meet a deadline. And for us, that's what led us to kind of win the decision. Very clear ecosystem, absence of competition in Europe, stellar team with a great track record. So as people build more track record in Europe, I think there will be better ecosystem.
Thank you. Fortunately, there is only 30 seconds left. They asked me to be very strict with the time. So you can ask us more questions because we'll be drinking some beers there in the food trucks area, and you'll find us here in the afternoon. Thank you very much, and thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.